Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings YouTube Atheist Community. And, happy birthday, fun. Yeah, it's my birthday today. Yeah, it really wasn't much of a day. I feel like crap. Yeah, well, what else is news? Yeah, life is just tedious as fuck. Anyway, lately, last few decades, it's been irritating. Anyway, I did do this Piro room for like 5 minutes. It was kind of funny. It's a 5-hour room. I'm glad I missed out. But anyway, yeah, so I jumped through the rest. It was all video game stuff, and Piro was, I don't know if he's on speed or what the hell he's on. It was just kind of funny because he accused me of interrupting him, and he just wouldn't let a counter argument be made. And it was just the same. It's a stupid immigration argument. And I'm like, I'd just like to understand this liberal perception of why we want to import religious kooks to America. Why? Why do we have an obligation to do that? There's people living on the street here, homeless, that we can't afford to take care of. Why are these people entitled? And he used a metaphor like manning up or something, and it's like, especially these new refugees, they're all people who can't pick a side. Their country's in a civil war and they run away. Yeah, oh yeah, they're real men, all right. Well, whatever. I don't get the whole thing. I don't get this. If they came here and they said, "Look, I disavow Islam," okay, give them $10,000 and a mansion and a yacht. I say, bravo. Import all you can. But to import a bunch of religious kooks, what do we need them for? I mean, like, this whole idea that somehow the world hasn't dramatically changed over the last 50 or 100 years, and that there's really, labor is not worth a damn. It really isn't, as a practical matter. Somebody who's making $10 an hour cannot possibly be productive in terms of managing their own existence. They have to be subsidized by the society. And of course there's a subsidy for the people who can afford to hire people to work for them, because they're getting cheap labor that society has to finance, right? I mean, you obviously can't have a kid on $10 an hour. People are doing it. Does it make any sense? No. So, yeah, well, whatever. I just don't see this. Why would I want to import somebody else's culture, and more importantly, their religion? I just don't see why atheists would be at all interested in importing religious kooks. Yeah, no. Sorry, I don't get it. Well, anyway, but Piro's answer, I just try to raise little simple things, right? He brought up agriculture in California, and that's migrant workers, which is a whole different subject. So, he can't, well, anyway, he's just very dishonest. We started talking about free speech and all this other stuff, and then, but he doesn't want to hear the alternative argument. So anyway, it was whatever. Just a waste of time. I mean, it wasn't much time, so, it wasn't a very big waste of time, which was good. So, in other news, I did mention in one of my other videos, Snake Plisskenus took his videos down, and Logic Rolls the Dice took all his videos down. Strange business that I don't, I just don't see the point in it, but whatever. But I haven't done any mind changing or any perspective changing in my entire life, so I guess I would never run into that problem. I mean, there's some of my old videos that I'm I'm not very proud of how poorly I treated a subject here and there, but it is what it is. But anyway, just a general statement, just blah blah blah. So anyway, there really isn't much going on again. Old Fan's done a couple of videos, some on this whole transsexual stuff, which is, whatever. Yeah, I'm empathetic for people's condition, no matter what it is, in terms of finding life awkward. and uncomfortable, and if they can do something to their physical appearance to make life livable, okay, cool. Yeah, you know, I'd still argue the Buddha thing is all in your head game anyway, so I mean, I don't know how any of it matters in a way, in a subtle kind of way, because you just imagine yourself a life anyway. It's easier, much more economical just to imagine you've been yachting for the day. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper than the real thing, but whatever, you know, that's, yeah. Yeah, you know, well, the whole ego thing, it's just, it is so dominant, but you can't say that to people without taking offense. But, you know, we're all just ruled by kind of trivial perceptions of where our worth or value lies. And, you know, it's all so personal for each individual, you know, what matters, what's important. You know, and that's another one of these things where diversity just really gets in our way, because, you know, everybody's got a different standard for good or bad performance. You know, some people it's appearance, some people it's accomplishments, it's money, it's, you know, so many different things. Hair, you know, whatever. But, you know, it's nature of being a human psychology, I guess. So that was the other thing, you know, Pierre was right. He's just so unrealistic. He was almost talking like optimistically about global warming, and, you know, talking about how he sort of enjoys fantasizing about Dystopian, how well he'll do, you know, as the Terminator, I guess, or, you know, as some character from, you know, science fiction apocalypse movies. The zombie killer. Yeah, I don't think so. That's what I want to say about it. Yeah, so he's just kind of making it like, oh yeah, well, lots of new land will be farmable, and this, I mean, yeah, and lots of new methane will be released. You know, all the frozen methane. I mean, you know, there's a point where it just gets totally out of control, you know, this whole global warming thing. It doesn't just go a little bad, it goes really bad. And, you know, you think, well, human beings will just dig holes and live like gophers or something. Yeah, whatever, sure they will. But whatever. You know, they might try. I'm just saying that, you know, this idea that we are indestructible is just such a crock of shit. We're quite destructible. Easter Island bull. Anyway, so what else? So yeah, Olfan did do another video about storytelling and about taking old stories and, you know, apocalypse nowing them, you know, ephilizing them. Yeah, I was just thinking of the idea of, you know, I played around with, you know, a few science fiction themes in the past, and I never really, you know, never really completed a work. Just a lot of scenes, you know, half of a screenplay, let's say. Because, you know, you hate committing to things. You know, I'm just too much of a, you know, you want to tie it up so perfect, you know, and it's like if you go one way, then you can't go another way, and you're like, oh, damn, I really want to go this other way, but I can't go that way if I go this way. So, you know, your story breaks down. Maybe I'll end the video with it, you know, just, you know, one of the ones I wanted to, I mean, years ago I thought of the whole idea of the reproducing machine, and I just found that a really interesting idea of, it's kind of like out of the Star Trek thing of some doomsday machine, something that just goes out into the universe and it has an objective, but it's evolving because it's a machine and anything can happen kind of thing, in terms of it making errors. You know, error code. Yeah, Star Trek played with that a lot, actually. So anyway, it's kind of a reoccurring thing. it was sort of annoying when I rewatched the old series, at least the first 2 seasons of it, and it was sort of an annoying theme I saw in there is this idea that computers were always stupid. Computers could never, they were always, you couldn't argue with one, you couldn't do it, it was just like they're always unreasonable and fundamentally, they had some sort of logical flaw, and you could defeat them by making them think they're an error and they have to delete themselves or something. They used that same trick like 4 times. It was like, come on. Like the computer's too stupid to figure out you just tried to trick it with a semantics argument. Yeah, right. The computer can do all this stuff, create a whole world for you to live in, but it can't figure out you're trying to trick it into blowing its own brains out. Yeah, well, anyways, it's kind of silly. So, what else? But it was just part of that theme. There was this subtle logic theme to Star Trek that was just a little bit annoying. Like, you can never apply logic to our existence. It was that whole idea of trying to defeat Spock, because Spock had to be, you always had to resort to being a human, when it's really important. You had to be irrational. It was just that, it's almost like a religious theme. It's almost like some kind of pro-human thing that was, in my opinion, kind of beneath Roddenberry's smart guy. It's very, very imaginative, but not recognizing that, the inner workings of a human being is shit, and this whole pretense of, that we're just this loving creature. It's just such a, like I said, the only thing that makes me at all decent, are the ideas that basically, where I recognize I'm a selfish fuck. There's nothing else. The nature of the personality is just so, what's in it for me? The root animal is always calculating advantage. So, whatever. But, that's another thing where, it's just so obvious, but, people just aren't going to admit that that's what they're fueled by. They're too caught up in their, chasing the boner. And I sort of have empathy for that position, but I guess it's, just because I spent much of my life obsessed with those trivial pursuits, and but the difference would be, I guess, is that I didn't have the opportunity to listen to my videos and say, oh yeah, shit, it is all kind of crap. This delusion of function and purpose, it's just silly. It's just all too personal and too manufactured by my hunger and by my ego. Ego, it's just a huge, important word, that one. Huge important. It's hard to, put it into kind of words, though. Ego doesn't really say anything. The whole desire mechanism, the whole conquest, the whole competitive, those programs are always running. They're really powerful. So anyway, powerful. I bought another crappy computer. It's $45. It's pretty. Look. Yeah, it's pretty colors. So I had to buy them. It's just too cheap. So I was going to put that computer in this new case, right? Because I figured this one wasn't going to work anyway. But it does sort of work, but it's running Vista and it keeps freezing. So I don't know what to do about that. I don't know. I'm just so sick of, I mean, this shouldn't happen. I mean, dindos ought to be able to figure out there's a problem and fix it. It's just stupid. Been fiddling around, changing memory sticks and doing this and doing that, and page files and all this. Nothing's fixing it. But anyway, yeah. But see, the other computer, the power supply's too big, so it won't fit in here. And so then the other motherboard I have doesn't fit in here. I mean, it's just always something. It's just really irritating. So I have to think of something. I have to figure out a solution. Yeah. I mean, it's too nice a case not to have a computer in. Yeah, it's too pretty. It has a glass window, so even when I put the cover on, there'll be a glass window in here, so I can just watch the fan spin. Yeah, I am sort of easily entertained. Ooh, the fan's spinning. Still spinning. Anyway. So, yeah, just pissed off. Yeah, I'm just sick of... Yeah, I've been there, done that kind of thing with computers, and I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of fiddling with this and looking for that and finding out the catch and finding, oh, that's what's fucking it up. I'm sick of it. Well, it's not even that. I don't have time. I mean, really, it's just, there's so many things I wanted to do. I mean, the whole Android thing I never got to, the whole tablet thing and blah, blah, blah. I've never, I haven't had time to get to any of this shit. Wanted to learn some app language stuff, Java, all that crap, but fuck it, I don't got time. I mean, I have to, I want to start painting again. I can't find the time for that. And the physics thing, my brain's always working on that. Did do a few of those physics videos, whatever it was, that public TV thingy, and so there's a couple on the Draft Science channel. But you can probably find those, right? I mean, if you go to this indexing page, still pretty. I gotta get rid of this. I haven't been posting the MP3s anymore. I'm just too, it's too much trouble. I have to think of a better, easier way to do it, I guess, or something. I don't know. So I have to put a different bar over there. Maybe I'll put the Draft Science bar over there or something. But anyway, so that's all I say. I don't think there's much else that's news. Not much going on. Kind of hard to provoke a conversation that's really means something, Yeah, my interests have just gotten so narrow, and I have to appreciate that that's not where most people are living. They have this whole realm of hunger for entertainment. And, I'm just not, I just can't get into it. I can still watch a movie if I try, but, I'm really just not, I mean, it's, it's all weak, compared to, actually, well, like I said, the physics thing is just innately interesting, but it's just, there's so much to get through it, it's all the conclusions and all the statements, and you're trying to figure out what are the real proven facts, and what are the things they're saying are proven facts that really aren't proven, it's trying to get back to what the evidence of something is. And it's sort of like the whole wave theory is based on the two-slit experiment. And, they never really analyzed that one very well. So, there's whole kinds of... That's not my standard of proof, but it's their standard of proof. And that's the irritating part. They keep saying they've proven spooky action at a distance. You go look at their experiments and you're saying, how can you call this proof when you have you're shooting something through 17 mirrors and you're telling me everything's, it's all reliable, don't worry. It's a statistical, it defeats the statistical error rate by, 0.0004%, so therefore it must be real. Or some kind of crap like that. And you're just like... they don't even know what photons are, and then they can say they can pair them, and then they can see the pairs when they're days away from each other. I don't think you can. But anyway, that's a whole different subject. So I guess that's it. So, okay, so one of the sci-fi stories, like I said, with the reproducing machine was kind of interesting. See, the movie would start with you just waking up, as if, you're living your life here, so it's got this kind of virtual reality element to it, and that your whole existence was just a programmed personality. And so then you would just, like, all of a sudden I'd be talking on this camera and in the movie, and then it would fade, and then I'd wake up in the future in this in this sterile environment. Just like you're coming out of a sleep, and like this was a dream. And but this is obviously established who you are. So this is what you've been programmed to be, a representative of, the whatever they would call this, the 2000s, this time in history, what people thought. And so there would be, and the idea would be is it would be more than one of these individuals. It would be from different times, and then it would be a way of validating the agenda of this reproducing machine. So the idea is you actually find out later that you're on a reproducing machine, and that you're being used as a way of checking function. So, to prevent the machine from becoming anything, it's, they retain the biological fail-safe. You're like the, well, whatever. It's just, you can see this, the idea of it would be, so to be like a person from a generation earlier than me. He's waking up from like the 1930s, and then I'd wake up from the year 2000, and somebody else would wake up from the year 2100, and somebody else from 2200, and then those individuals would end up having to vote on the agenda, of the machine, because it's releasing a new, it's reproduced itself, and where this generation of people would be establishing the programming for the new generation. And then that gets to the whole idea in the end. You get to the idea that the whole theme of the machine is this detecting the existence of life in the universe and sterilizing it, so it has this really insidious purpose for these beings that are all emotional. And then I had this whole love interest thing that you build it out of too. That makes it all interesting. And what else? So just it just seemed like there's lots of room for a good story in there. About the whole debate, the nature of the debate between the different generations and their ideologies, and the way you could make them, like they would just get more and more cynical with time towards human emotionalism, and but you still have to make the argument because it's still a kind of a democracy. But the interesting element that even goes even further is that, well, if there's no free will and it's all based on your programming, would the arguments always be the same? Would it matter, like, if I woke up first or somebody else woke up second? What little details can you change just by waking somebody up 10 minutes later in their live stream? Would you change the argument they make? If I woke up, based, like, say I had a pretty crappy day today. It was just not a great day. If you're waking up out of the dream, so to speak, on a bad day, you might have a very different attitude than it was with a good day. And that would change the nature of your debate in the argument for or against the function. And it's just kind of funny how that little bit of time, that little extra programming, would have a change in the destiny or the outcome and the decision, even though it's all programming, you know. Anyway, yeah, well, so those kind of questions are always kind of interesting, just because of the idea of our function being so mechanical. And when you think about the whole biological thing and the whole evolution thing, and that it really is just a process of inevitably making these competitive machines, that use a little bit of perception and analysis merely to scheme, the gratification of these motivational feelings. And it's just such a simple mechanism in its function, but yeah, creates this lots of room for nuance in how it ends up. Great difference between what the human organism can manifest with the same instrumentality. The diversity of human perspective, when you think it's just such a simple mechanism, competitive logic device based on a motivational feeling mechanism. And here we have this huge diversity out of that simplicity. But it's like the universe itself is like that. There's this simple pressure, that causes these little bits to stick together and condensate. And that little bit of sticking together creates the whole, goes from the creating the neutron to creating the whatever the biggest black hole is. Just the range of implication out of just such a simple mechanism. And that doesn't seem intuitively sensible, but you can understand that that's the way it, obviously, that's what it can manifest. So anyway, it's like, it's just that but what narrowed the possibilities? What prevented the 9-armed octopus or the 20-armed octopus? It might be how many arms do squids have? They seem like they have more somehow. But anyway, all the stuff that could have been that wasn't, why, and the reason why it wasn't, like what little change you make and it would have been, and that part of it, that the subtle difference between my destiny and, say, the destiny of the Pope. The simple little change, one little detail somewhere, and our roles are reversed. But anyway, nice. So I think it's enough of a video. I want to work on doing something a little more qualitative in my presentation, something a little more, I hate to say entertaining, but maybe I want to use a more subtle word for that, engaging, stimulating, interest-provoking. Yeah, well, maybe that's a long shot. Yeah. But yeah, you just kind of have to put people in the mood for it in a way. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of metaphors for it, like aroma is to food or something. Like you sort of have to. You have to foreplay. You have to get people hungry for it. Make it a game they can get addicted to, get caught up in. This whole philosophy thing. Yeah. Anyway, make it compete with the simpler, more visceral hungers. Or not, I guess I'll just end up doing what I end up doing. I mean, I have these vague ideas of, okay, get to that, do that someday, and it's just some days just don't get here. It's just the investment of time, really, is all it comes down to. And then, when you're, it's like I don't think I have Lyme again, but I'm just so tired. It's like I got some kind of chronic fatigue thing or something, and the back was miseried, and my hip aches, and I got a lot of just not doing very well, and I just have this, you just it's hard to really go and get something done when you're kind of. But anyway. I mean, I've always I've had to fight that, since whenever it started somewhere in my teens. I just started having crappy days. Yeah, and it's always been that way since. But anyway, it's not your problem. I'm just making excuses for the fact that I'm not as functional as I like to be. But I really am spreading myself too thin. I just have too many projects on my mind, and I'm just too crippled for the amount of the dancing I'm attempting to do, or however, I'm out of my so can't even come up with words for it, or I know there's probably good metaphors for it, but I'm over challenged. Well, I don't know. No, there's got to be a better way to say it. I'm spread too thin, right? That's the words. That's how people say this kind of stuff. I've put down too many pieces of bread, and I don't have enough peanut butter. That kind of thing. Anyway, so this is a mess of a video. But that's okay. They're all a little sloppy. That should be good enough, actually. It should be, theoretically. In a world where I was talking to other rational, sentient beings, it should be enough. But we're really just talking to barking dogs, and most people just don't have any. Well, whatever. I mean, we're all, like I said, I'm vulnerable to the same accusation I would make against others, in the sense that, I certainly couldn't give a damn about what most people are talking about. But anyway, till next time.